Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're diving into something every teacher thinks about, building that perfect toolkit. We're going to look at how we can move past the standard textbook to create language lessons that really pop, that are dynamic, relevant, and just way more engaging for our students. You know the feeling, right? We've all been there. You're prepping for class, the course book is open, but you've got that gut feeling. To make this lesson truly memorable, to make the language actually come alive, you're going to need something more. That's exactly the challenge we're tackling today.
So let's start with the absolute foundation of most classrooms, the course book. It's our guide, our structure, our starting point. But let's be honest, it's rarely perfect. So the very first step is to really, truly understand what we're working with.
And that brings us to a huge question, one we should all be asking ourselves pretty regularly. Is this book, this main resource we use every day, a launchpad for learning, or is it kind of holding our students back? Being critical here is the first most important step toward building a better lesson.
So here's a little checklist to help you with that. Really ask yourself, does this book actually help me hit my learning goals? What's the philosophy behind it? Is it giving my students a good mix of listening, speaking, reading, and writing? And this is a big one, does it reflect the diverse world our students actually live in? Oh, and is it even easy to look at and read?
Let's just zoom in on that methodological approach for a second. It's a game changer. A book built on grammar translation is going to feel totally different from one focused on communicative teaching. One is all about the rules, the nitty-gritty of grammar. The other is about getting your message across in a real-world conversation. Knowing which camp your book falls into tells you so much about its strengths and its weaknesses.
And that leads us to the big takeaway here. There is no perfect, one-size-fits-all course book out there. It just doesn't exist. The real magic, the real skill of a great teacher is seeing that book not as a strict script you have to follow, but as a flexible foundation, something you build on, you tweak, you adapt to fit what your students really need. Okay, so once you know your course book's limits and its gaps, that's when the fun begins. Now we can start expanding our toolkit, bringing in all sorts of other materials that drag the real world right into our classroom.
And the number one go-to for this is what we call authentic materials. Simply put, these are things that were not made for a language class. They're made for native speakers, by native speakers. They're the real deal, messy, natural, and they show students how the language is actually used out in the wild.
And this is where you can get so creative. Think way beyond a boring article. What about a takeout menu to practice ordering food? Or a local bus schedule to talk about future plans? All of a sudden, a simple piece of paper becomes this rich, context-filled lesson. These materials aren't just teaching words, they're opening a window into the culture, showing the language as a living, breathing thing.
Now, of course, authentic materials can feel a bit intimidating for students, so here's a super simple three-step framework to make them work. First, pull out the trickiest vocabulary and pre-teach it. Second, and this one is so important, simplify the task, not the text. Don't dumb down the article. Instead, just ask students to find the main idea. And finally, fill them in on any cultural bits and pieces they might be missing to get the full picture. So you're always facing this trade-off, right? On one hand, authentic materials are amazing for relevance and cultural insights, but yeah, they can be tough linguistically. On the other hand, you can create your own custom materials like worksheets that are perfectly tailored to your students' level. The only catch? It can take a ton of your time. The real art is figuring out the right balance for your classroom. All right, time for our final component. Let's bring this toolkit right into the 21st century. Technology is a massive upgrade, giving us tools that can boost engagement, practice, and accessibility in some really incredible ways. Let's break these down real quick. You've got your multimedia, all the videos and podcasts that immerse students in the sights and sounds of the language. Then you have interactive platforms, where students aren't just sitting back and consuming, they're actually creating and collaborating. And finally, you have gamified apps, which are brilliant because they tap into that natural love for competition to make learning feel more like a game than a chore. And you can see how these tools really work in practice. Subtitled videos, fantastic for listening skills. Interactive tools like Padlet can completely change a classroom. Imagine a group storytelling exercise where every student adds a sentence to a shared digital wall. It's awesome. And apps like Quizlet can make that boring but necessary vocabulary drill feel, well, fun. Each type of tool has its own unique superpower.
But hang on, before you dive headfirst into all the shiny new tech, it's so important to just pause and ask these 3 questions. First, can everyone in my class actually use this? Think about internet access, devices. Second, is this tool actually helping my lesson's goal, or is it just a cool distraction? And finally, am I using this as a chance to also teach my students how to be smart, responsible digital citizens?
So let's pull all these threads together now. We've got our foundational course book, our real-world supplementary materials, and our engaging digital tools. How do we make these 3 things work together as one cohesive, powerful toolkit?
Well, it's all about the blend. The most powerful lessons take that solid structure from the course book, inject it with the real-world relevance from authentic materials, and then amplify everything with the fun and engagement that technology brings. It's when these 3 things work in synergy that the magic really happens.
And you know, the benefits here go so far beyond just learning vocabulary and grammar. As the source material says so well, this whole approach helps build independent learners, it creates a much deeper cultural awareness, and it develops digital skills that are absolutely essential in the modern world.
So I'll leave you with this final thought, a little challenge. As you think about your own teaching, whether it's a specific authentic material you could use, a new app you could try, or even just a new way to look at your textbook, what's the one new tool you'll add to your toolkit tomorrow?